Today we're going to talk about your digital portfolio. Regardless of which art class you have, you should be creating a digital portfolio submission for each assignment as the submission for proof of what you completed in each unit for that specific class. There should be a digital portfolio module you can reference. You should access what we are doing through the agenda, but you can also see it in the digital portfolio module, which should be module 8.1 for this class. Right now, we are presenting a video explanation of the requirements which you can see in the module. The learning target is students will showcase their mastery of course outcomes through a digital portfolio created using Google Sites. Your final portfolio should include in-process photos, images of final pieces, reflections of what you did, and you should compare your work to a resource artist for most assignments. You can use the digital portfolio template and checklist below for a better understanding. You can also see we will be using the design process and visual art outcomes and standards to create the reflections of what we create in class. This will allow your teacher to assess what you know as you bold and highlight art terminology you use in your analysis of your performance. If you click on the design process and visual art outcomes and standards document, the first thing you will see is a bunch of directions. They are telling you to make a copy of this document so you can write in it because it will make tagging or copying and pasting the reflections into your portfolio easier. Once you have made a copy, you can select outcomes to reflect on in your portfolio. You should select a proficiency level and then write a summary about why you believe you are at that level, including any art terminology that is made bold and highlighted in your reflection. Then copy and paste it into your portfolio. It is important that you put both the digital portfolio and the outcomes document in your folder for class so that you can find them easily when you are trying to work on them. You can also bookmark them in your Chromebook. You can see you should use 3 to 5 outcomes and standards in the reflection each time you complete the final portfolio page for the unit you are completing for class. You are welcome to create your own Google site using the Google Site creation video. It's highly recommended that you use the portfolio checklist or the digital portfolio template for the class you are in. The strongest recommendation is to look at the digital portfolio template because it suggests which outcomes and standards to use in each specific unit. When you are in the digital portfolio template, make sure you are in the page for the class you are taking. As you can see, you will need a final image of the product you are completing for class. Next to it, you should reflect on concepts from that unit, making art vocabulary bold and highlighted. Beneath it, you can see you will need at least 3 process images of what you have worked on. This is really hard to fake in the end, so make sure you are taking pictures along the way. If you are struggling to create the Google site, please see your instructor and he or she will make a copy of the template that can be shared with you. As we are back in the digital portfolio introduction page, I want you to notice the sample portfolio at the bottom of the module. Notice that when you click into it, all the images are focused, upright, and cropped only to show the image straight on, not slanted. It's fairly well done, but notice the art terminology is hard to see because while it was made in bold, the font that was selected is very hard to see, which is why you are also asked to highlight the terms. As we move into the next module, you will see this is where you will submit proof of your digital portfolio Google site creation. There are several resources in the module you can use to help you create the portfolio, which will be starting in a few minutes. The first link is to the composition drawing submission page, which has specific instructions for the composition piece, as well as a physical example of the quality of what the final version of the drawing should look like. Remember, contrast is necessary, value is not. I just showed a leveled up version for the composition page because we're always striving for mastery. Notice that the submission page for each unit will have a table outlining what is required, but they should all look fairly similar. You will always need 1 to 5 resource photos, which is different than the Resource Artist Incorporation. Those are just images that you look at while you're trying to create your piece. You'll also need sketches and a game plan, as well as you'll be comparing to a resource artist, and you can notice there are some examples given that you could compare to. You'll also need in-process photos, to be highlighting your vocabulary, and you'll also use that design process rubric in order to analyze which of the outcomes you should be reflecting on in your portfolio. Each page should also have a link to the checklist and template so that you can use those if you would like. It seems like most people really like the digital portfolio template because when you're in the specific class, it shows you visually as well as what you have to reflect on. So here you can see you'd need a final image of your project. You'd be reflecting on the different concepts in the class. You need process images. You'll be analyzing your performance with the design process and visual art standards and outcomes document. Here it's telling you which ones to use, and then you'd be comparing to a resource artist at the end. Now that we're back into the digital portfolio submission check, what you are going to do is you're going to create your version of your website for your portfolio. Right now, we're just asking you to create the page for the composition unit, but it's highly recommended that you do all of them now because it'll save you time later. You should also make sure that you're putting all of the work for one class on one page. You can make subpages if you would like. Again, you're going to be reflecting on the standards and outcomes with the different document. You will create reflections that have art terminology that's highlighted, and it's important to have your images upright, focused, straight on, which means they're not slanted, and close enough to see the work. Notice that photos can also be easily rotated using a Google Doc and a screenshot. When you're finished with your portfolio, you need to make sure that you go and submit the work. You also need to submit the published site, which means you have to make sure it's set to public, and every time you submit, you'll have to republish your site. If you do not do that, your instructor will not be able to see your work and you will lose points for not following directions. When you're finished with your site, you can click on Start Assignment. Then you need to go into the sharing of your site, make sure that the site is set to public, and you're going to copy the published site link. When you have done that, you can submit the URL for the website that you have created and you'll get credit for the assignment. And notice, you'll get confetti when it's done on time. Once you have finished, you can continue working on your composition drawing. And remember, take your process photos.